If you're playing Marvel Rivals, chances are that you have that one duelist you just can't play against. Whether it be a constant diving Black Panther, or even a pesky Magik player. Today I have you covered with how to counter every single duelist in Marvel Rivals, whether that be with some sort of strategy, or just other hero picks. And if you're new here, or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? You're coming back anyways. And it's generally the best way to help out my channel. We're so close to our goal of 10,000 subscribers. But without further ado, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
So kicking things off with Black Panther is always a decently strong pick for any team, especially for a team that's relying more on a dive type composition. Now because of that, it can be rather annoying to play against a really good Black Panther, and generally the best counter against a Black Panther is Namor, Neymar Jr., whatever you want to call him, thanks to his Monstro spawn ability, which spawns in his octopus or squid turrets that essentially shuts down any flanking type hero. Now not only that, but his Blessing of the Deep ability, which is the ability that makes him invincible for a little bit, is really good at shutting down his combo so you can't get the dash reset on you. Now not only that, there's also some other strong duelist counters as well. You have heroes like Iron Man and Storm, where they're constantly flying around, so it makes it very difficult for Black Panther to land any of his combos. Now you also have heroes like Scarlet Witch, who can escape easily and chip away at his health with her left click, and again use her own, dash or, phase out to escape from his damaging combos. You also have a hero like Mr. Fantastic, who can absorb his combos and trade damage efficiently. Now you also have Squirrel Girl, who is surprisingly super effective. If you land her alternative attack where she launches a giant nut, a Black Panther, it will stun him if landed correctly, and you can get a very easy elimination. Now duelists aren't the only counters to Black Panther. You actually have Vanguard counters and even strategists. For Vanguards, you have Hulk, where he can use his shift ability that grants him shields to himself and nearby allies, disrupting Black Panther's combo. Now you also have Penny Parker, her mind's infrequent stun ability, which is her cyber web, which is her alternative attack, has a 5-second cooldown, and it makes it difficult for Black Panther to approach her or the rest of her team. And you also have to deal with those pesky mines. Now you also have Magneto, where his shields and bubble abilities disrupt Black Panther's momentum, making him a super solid counter. Now for strategist counters for Black Panther, you can say a hero like Mantis is a solid counter because of her sleep ability, which is area based, making it a whole lot easier to land on Black Panther. And I guess you could also say, Luna Sno's Ice Blast ability is also a solid counter, of course, if you have, decent aim, because it is a single target ability. But for the most part, and this can go with pretty much any dive hero, the best solid hero one-to-one counter pick has to be hands down Namor. Now Black Widow is a rather interesting character, as she is not picked a ton due to having a lot better, alternatives like Hela or even Hawkeye. But of course, there's always that rare occasion when you do end up actually facing against a Black Widow. So here's who you can pick if things get a little bit troubling. Now for duelists, we have a pick like Psylocke, who can easily get behind enemy lines and quickly eliminate said sniper with, a really simple combo. Following that, practically every single dive character is a direct counter to Black Widow as well, like Black Panther, Iron Fist, Spiderman, Magik, and Wolverine all pressure snipers pretty much effectively. And you also have a hero like Hawkeye, who can one-shot her while being tankier himself. And generally, he's just a way better Black Widow, because he can actually one-shot enemies. For Vanguard counters, you have a hero like Venom, who can easily dive into the enemy backline and pressure and eliminate Black Widow before she has a chance to really do anything. You also have characters like Hulk, or Captain America, and even Thor, who dive and harass the backline as well. Then you also have a hero like Doctor Strange, who can block and shield anything and everything that Black Widow tries to do, and pretty much just makes her life a living nightmare. Now, love it or hate it, Black Widow isn't necessarily one of the strongest characters in the game, and she's really easy and prone to getting countered by pretty much everything. So in a general sense, the best way to counter a Black Widow player is to literally just pick a dive character, or you could pick Hawkeye. Then for the strategist, there isn't really any strategist counters, mainly because your strategist should be in your own backline, so they really shouldn't necessarily be pressuring the Black Widow. But you could maybe have an Adam Warlock or a Mantis on your team trying to get those pesky little headshots here and there, so they could be considered counters. But a majority of the time, your direct counters are going to be both in your Vanguard category and in your Duelist category as well. Now, just like Black Widow, Hawkeye kind of falls into the same category of certain counters. Now, even though
Hawkeye did receive a nerf in season 1, he's still considered rather strong from a damage output point of view, but in practical play, not necessarily. But regardless, his duelist counters, again, just like Black Widow, are practically identical. You have Black Panther, who has high mobility, makes him rather difficult to hit, and he can close the gap quickly. You also have other dive characters like Iron Fist, Spiderman, Psylocke, and Magik. All are excellent choices, and there's nothing wrong with picking any of them when trying to get rid of a Hawkeye. Now, when it comes to the Vanguard hero counters for him, you have any of these dive counters. You have heroes like Captain America, who can deflect Hawkeye's arrows while closing the gap and then pressure him with melee attacks. Then you also have shield-based tanks, although a little, less effective than, Venom and Hulk due to the Hawkeye's piercing arrows, they are still rather easy to counter. Now, for strategists, I would say Adam Warlock can be a counter because their hit scan attacks allow them to fight Hawkeye from a distance. And people say that Luna Snow is a counter to Hawkeye. I have no idea why. That's probably one of the worst takes ever. Because if Hawkeye has a full 100% charged shot and Luna Snow is ulting, all Hawkeye has to do is headshot her with a full charge shot once, and that ult is out of the map. So saying Luna Snow is a counter might not be the right thing. At the end of the day, what's the best way to deal with Hawkeye? Well, simply just being a dive character, or maybe even having 2 dive characters if the Hawkeye is actually landing his shots. Are you tired of skipping meals or grabbing junk food because you're always on the go? Well, say hello to Control, the meal replacement shake that actually tastes amazing. Now, whether you're grinding through work, gaming late into the night, or just need a quick nutritious boost, Control has your back. Of course, packed with all the good stuff, proteins, vitamins, fiber, you'll feel full and fueled without sacrificing flavor. Oh, and did I mention the flavors? Cinnamon toast, fruity flakes, cookies and creams. It's like your favorite childhood cereals, but grown up and good for you. Now, not only that, they also have a wide variety of protein bars and even protein cookies, with my personal favorites being the peanut butter pieces cookies and of course the peanut butter s'mores protein bars. And let me tell you, these peanut butter s'mores bars are amazing and they're always sold out, so you should definitely get your hands on trying it. So stop settling for bland, boring shakes, level up your nutrition at drinkcontrol.com and take control of your day. That's drinkctrl.com. Go get yours now and make sure to use code DUCK for 10% at checkout. Next up we have Hela, and we know how annoying Hela was in season 0, and it was very frustrating to play against this. Now, despite her nerfs, Hela still remains a dominant force. Now, the only change she was really given was a HP change to 250, which makes her a little bit more vulnerable. Now, because of this change, there's some duelists that better counter her now. One of those counters being Psylocke, who can now perform her one-shot combo more effectively against Hela. Now, you also have a ton of other dive characters. For instance, you have characters like Black Panther, who can burst her down quite easily, Iron Fist if you really wanted to add him. You also have Spider-Man, although he's not necessarily played a ton, and of course you have Magik, who are all considered effective against Hela. Then moving into our Vanguard counters, we have Doctor Strange. His shield negates much of Hela's damage and can even block her powerful ultimate. And honestly, this meme that I found is probably the best example of what happens between Doctor Strange and Hela. And I don't know why I find this super funny. Then the other Vanguard counters, you have Venom, Hulk, and Captain America, who can all disrupt and pressure her pretty effectively. Then the strategist counters, you probably have characters like Luna Snow, Invisible Woman, Cloak and Dagger. All these heroes have an ultimate ability that completely negate all of Hela's damage. You could also have Adam Warlock if you wanted to throw him up there as well, who could technically challenge her with his right click and left click ability, being able to actually outburst quite a bit of damage. Again, typically these counters to, ranged heroes like Hawkeye, Black Widow, or even Hela, it's going to be some type of dive character. That's just the trend, and this is certainly true with other hero-based shooter games as well. Now, Iron Fist is a very unique hero, as he can be extremely frustrating to play against, especially in lower ranks. I will say though, at higher ranks, he definitely becomes less effective because players know how to, counter him, and they just generally know that if he's blocking, you shouldn't be shooting at him. But if you're still having trouble with Iron Fist, here is some counters that you can think of. So for our duelist counters, we have none other than the anti-dive man himself, football superstar by day, aquatic hero by night. We have none other than Namor Jr. He is the best, and I mean the best anti-dive character in the entire game, thanks to his monstrous spawns or his squid turrets. Especially when he's teamed up with Luna Snow, that slows down these flanking characters and just makes it extremely frustrating to play if you're trying to play, a diving character. Now, some other characters you could consider as a counter, you could think of Scarlet Witch, as she has, perfect insta tracking, and she also has a pretty good stun ability, although she isn't isn't the best hero in the game, she can be considered a counter. You also have Mr. Fantastic, who can kind of pull him out of position. Starlord to keep range and, be in the air a little bit longer. He has a dodging ability, so it's pretty useful. You also have Squirrel Girl, who can lock him down with her stun ability, and you also can consider Winter Soldier, otherwise known as Bucky, in Marvel Rivals. Now, he's particularly strong against Iron Fist due to his mid-range dominance. He can also hook Iron Fist out of position, quickly knock him up, and disperse a whole bunch of damage onto him. For Vanguard counters, we have Penny Parker, where her mines really disrupt melee-focused characters, and she also has her Cyberweb secondary ability that locks and stuns people in place. Now, you could also throw in Thor or even Captain America in there. Now, for strategists, you have Mantis, whose sleep ability is super effective against melee characters because it's a AoE based ability. You also have Invisible Woman, who can escape super easily, push Iron Fist away, or even pull Iron Fist into a very bad position. Now, Cloak and Dagger can fade away and deal, blinding and damage to him, and definitely can be a lot harder to take down than other strategists in the game. Now, when it comes to Iron Man's counters, not a lot of people are playing Iron Man because Hulk is typically banned, but in the lower ranks, he can definitely be a nuisance. For Duelist counters, you have characters like Hela and Punisher, both have hit scan weapons, making it easier to shoot Iron Man out of the sky. You could also throw Black Widow and Starlord kinda in the same boat, as they're both super effective hit scan characters that target him from mid to long range. Then you could throw in Winter Soldier if you really wanted to, because he can pull Iron Man down with his hook, but a majority of the time, Iron Man's gonna be too far away for that hook, so he's kinda, wishy-washy with that sense. For Vanguard counters, you have heroes like Doctor Strange, where his shield mitigates pretty much all of Iron Man's damage. You could throw Penny Parker up there with a rare hit scan type tank with a reliable alternative attack stun that can block his ultimate and cancel his ultimate at the same time. Now, you could also throw Magneto in there as well, absorbing all of his damage, and if Magneto were to ult, can also absorb Iron Man's ult as well. Then for, our strategist counters, you have Luna Snow and Adam Warlock, as they're both, hit scan based strategists and can be effective at shooting down flying characters. And if you're finding this video useful or helpful in any way, shape, or form, do me a tremendous favor, hit that like and subscribe button. It's the best way to help me out and keep this thing running. We're almost to 10,000 subscribers, so you might as well join in. Now, when it comes to Magik and Marvel Rivals, you either get one or two players. The first player having absolutely no idea what they're doing, don't know any of the combos, resets, or anything like that. Or you have a Magik player that completely carries the match and it feels impossible to counter this player. But every hero in this game has to have some type of counter. And of course, Magik isn't safe from this. First and foremost, you have a hero like Starlord who can predict and dodge Magik's attacks while keeping distance and shooting her down. Now, his ultimate is super useful also at catching her while she's teleporting around the map. Now, because Magik is a dive-esque hero, some really solid counters are none other than Namor, who's very good at countering dive heroes with his, monstro spawns. He can dodge her, combos with his Blessing of the Deep ability, and is honestly just the bane of all flanking or dive heroes. You could also throw in Scarlet Witch, Mr. Fantastic, and even Squirrel Girl if you really wanted to. Now, because Magik is super melee focused, if the Magik isn't an amazing player, like she isn't like the best Magik player, you could use Iron Man or even Storm to really counter her. But there's always the rare case of a Magik on the other team being absolutely insane and just one-shotting you as your Storm or Iron Man. So into not the best Magik, they can be super effective. Into a very good Magik, you might need to go Namor rather than Storm. You could also throw Punisher in there if you wanted to with his shotgun when she gets up close. I find that extremely useful for myself, but maybe for others it might be different, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. But for your Vanguard counters against, Magik, you have characters like Hulk who can shield against Magik's burst and chase her down. You also have Penny Parker and Thor who both provide strong counters. Mantis' sleep ability makes Magik super vulnerable, as well as Luna Snow's freeze ability is also effective. Now, I guess you could throw the Trash Panda in there as you want to, Rocket, but his high mobility allows him to avoid her attacks. But if she lands one of her abilities, this Rocket player is probably going to end up dying. Now, Mr. Fantastic is kind of in a weird, boat. He's a tank DPS hybrid, making him an easy target for certain characters. One of those characters is Wolverine, who does a ton of damage based on health. And Wolverine's damage is actually affected by Mr. Fantastic's HP, as he deals more damage based on the percentage of the health. So Wolverine is a solid counter to Mr. Fantastic. But most of the time, Wolverine is banned, in higher lobbies, so you could pick a character like Squirrel Girl who does significant damage and can stun him multiple times. You could pick Punisher for his shotgun, you could pick Hela, you could pick Storm, you could pick Starlord, all super strong characters that do a lot of damage at medium to long range. Now for the Vanguard counters against Mr. Fantastic, you have Thor, who can push Mr. Fantastic into unfavorable positions and wear him down. You also have Penny Parker, who's a pretty solid counter against Mr. Fantastic, locking him down in place and just having to deal with the mines. Now for strategist counters, the only one I can say is like Invisible and Mantis, who both provide, some counterplay to him, as they have the push and the sleep. Now Mr. Moon can be pretty tricky to deal with. He's a character with decent mobility and can have some pretty high burst potential. He's a little bit broken right now with his ultimate at the time of recording this, but I think as the time this video is released, he should be fixed. With that being said, some of the best, duelist counters for Moonknight. The first one being Psylocke, because she can one-shot him with her main combo. You also have Iron Man and Storm, because his projectiles struggle against flying characters. Now for Vanguard counters, you have Hulk, Captain America, and Venom, all super strong diving, Vanguards. And then for the strategist counters, the only one you necessarily have is Invisible Woman, because she can push him away and pull him in out of position. And I guess you could throw Cloak and Dagger in there as well, as her ultimate. She can sort of survive if she dashes correctly, but most of the time Moon Knight's ultimate is going to be countering a majority of the strategist ultimates as well. Now, how do we counter or get rid of Namor? One of the best counters to all the dive characters in the entire game. Now, generally, one of the strongest go-to counters for Namor is none other than Moon Knight, because Moon Knight's, abilities can bounce off his monstro spawns or the squid turrets, making it super easy to get a whole bunch of damage out. Now, I think another solid counter to Namor is actually Winter Soldier, because for the fact if Namor puts two of his monstro spawns, right next to each other, because Bucky's primary attack kind of does a little bit of splash damage, he can essentially take out the two turrets with a couple shots. Now you can also throw in Hela, Hawkeye, Punisher, Iron Man. Their splash damage quickly eliminates more squids and maintain, range and distance as well. Now for Vanguards, you have heroes like Venom, who can dive into Namor's space and shut him down. Of course, if properly accompanied by other dive characters. You also have Captain America, who can deflect Namor's turret shots and spear attacks with his shield. I mean, for strategists, you could throw in Loki, as he's a good pick, that his regeneration domain can actually protect him from his ultimate, and their turrets can lock onto the clones rather than Loki himself. Now, Psylocke is definitely one of the stronger duelists in the game, boasting excellent mobility, burst damage, and even hit scan attacks. So how do you effectively counter her? Now for duelist counters, one of Psylocke's best counters is Namor. If you have a Psylocke constantly harassing your backline, just get a Namor, he can throw down his turrets and they will insta-lock onto her when she gets out of an invis. Now you could also throw in Winter Soldier or Bucky, because he thrives in mid to close range, where Psylocke prefers to fight, up close. He can interrupt her combo with his dash ability, and he has ridiculous burst damage, often winning fights outright. Now when it comes to Vanguards against Psylocke, you have characters like Captain America, who Psylocke struggles against rushdown melee attacks, can reflect her primary fire with his shield, and can bully her when she dives onto the backline. Now, some of the best, strategist counters are probably Mantis, where she can sleep her, Invisible Woman to push her away and go invisible to escape, and that's really about it. Now, Scarlet Witch is currently underwhelming, struggling against many duelists except for dive characters like Spiderman or Black Panther. For the best duelist counters are hit scan characters like Hela and Punisher. They can punish Scarlet Witch from a distance before she even gets a chance to fight back. For Vanguards, the best Vanguards to pick against Scarlet Witch is Penny Parker. Scarlet Witch tries to stay in the air, but Penny, as a hit scan tank, can shoot her down. You also have Doctor Strange and Magneto. Their shields force Scarlet Witch to waste them breaking time, and they also just completely block her ult. Now, Spider-Man can be hit or miss. A very good Spider-Man player can be pretty terrifying, but with the right counters, he's more of a pest rather than a predator. Now, we all know that the best duelist counter to Spider-Man has to be hands down Namor. We all know that Namor is king against any dive character, and Spider-Man is no exception. Now, there's other strong picks. You could say Scarlet Witch, for instance, Mr. Fantastic, or even Starlord, by keeping distance and range while still maintaining constant damage. Now, for our Vanguards, the best Vanguard counter has to be Penny Parker, because her net ability, or spider web, whatever you want to call her alternative attack, literally locks him in place. The Spider Mines are also very good at trying to get him when he's diving in. Captain America could also be a very useful counter. Then for strategists, you have Mantis with her sleep ability. It's practically a death sentence for any Spider-Man player. You also have Luna Snow, harder to land a freeze but can still be effective. Cloak and Dagger, can blind Spider-Man and allow you to punish him pretty easily. If you're having an issue with Squirrel Girl, here are some of the best Duelist counters. You have Hela with predictable movement, it makes her an extremely easy target. Iron Man can outrange Squirrel Girl with ease, as well as Storm. Hawkeye hit scan shots shut her down, especially with her tail movement. Some of the best vanguards are Doctor Strange. You can block Squirrel Girl's, everything pretty much. Magneto as well, the same as Doctor Strange. You also have Venom, Captain America, and Hulk can all jump on her without fear of being one shot, as well as some strategist counters are like Rocket Raccoon, as it's hard for Squirrel Girl to hit due to his small hitbox. You could also throw in Adam Warlock so he can do a ton of damage with his charged attack. Now, if you're looking to counter, a super good Starlord, there's some characters you could keep in mind. For instance, Hawkeye can easily shred him down with one shot, but you do have to be aware you have to have, decent aim, as he is going to be moving around a ton. Doctor Strange, he can block, all of Starlord's shots and even his full ultimate duration. You have Black Widow to quickly get him out of the air. You also have Squirrel Girl, if he's landed, you could, stun him and then burst him down. And you could also have Luna Snow with a freeze. You also have things like Punisher and even Hela. Now, if you have a really hard time going against a Punisher, there's a couple ways you can deal with him. I mean, first and foremost, you could, get Squirrel Girl is surprisingly a great choice to force him to move, as when Punisher is in his turret form, she can safely hide behind a wall or environment and spam her primary fire, dealing enough damage to break his turret. Flankers such as Psylocke, Spiderman, Iron Fist, Black Panther are very effective at sneaking up and eliminating Punisher. Although Psylocke lacks some vertical movement, she can go invisible and has the potential to perform a one-shot combo if done correctly. Spider-Man and Iron Fist both have as much easier time getting in and safely getting out using their movement abilities, though it's a vibe to make sure your abilities aren't on cooldown when engaging. Now, some good picks to counter as a vanguard, because it's really hard to counter Punisher, especially when he has his shotgun as a vanguard. Now, Hulk is a great candidate for countering Punisher. Simply jump right onto the Punisher's position and activate your barrier ability, then you start fisting him. You can also throw in Captain America, who's also a decent counter, as you can block a lot of shots from him. Now, it could be really frustrating playing against a very good Winter Soldier. Now, you can poke down Winter Soldier from afar with, characters like Hela, Hawkeye, or even Black Widow, but heroes like Magneto and Doctor Strange are excellent choices for cutting him off and pushing him out of position so that he can get taken down by ranged characters. Now, Adam Warlock is actually a really solid counter to him, because he can essentially protect the entire team from Winter Soldier's damage output with his Soul Bond ability. Now, you can throw in another strategist like Loki, but hear me out before you start typing in the comments, Loki sucks against Winter Soldier. Well, yes, this is true, because Winter Soldier can get his, ult reset off of Loki's clones, but I only say Loki if the Loki copies another defensive strategist ultimate, like for example, Luna Snow or Cloak and Dagger. That's why I say he can be a counter. But outside of that, he's not the best against a Winter Soldier. Now, Storm in her usual form is fairly easy to counter, as she moves slowly and can be targeted by long-range heroes quite effectively. I mean, her ultimate is far from the strongest part of her kit, and if you aren't sure how to play around it, it can be devastating. The easiest way to counter Storm's ultimate is by using strategist ult like Invisible Woman, Luna Snow, and Cloak and Dagger. Now, besides that, pretty much any hit scan type character is an effective counter. Take, for example, Hela or Punisher are extremely good counters to her. Now, you could throw in Doctor Strange as a counter if you wanted to. He can fly up and kind of abuse Storm. Now, last but not least, we have Wolverine. Now, besides always being pretty much permabanned in GM and up lobbies, here's some counters to, keep in mind. One of them always being Namor. Namor is a very solid counter at any type of diving character. You could also throw Storm in there, as she maintains height and keeps Wolverine at range. But the best way to get around countering, Wolverine, and try your best to burn his passive every single time it comes back up. This way, it's a lot easier to burst him down when he dives into your team and kidnaps your tank. And there you have it. That's essentially how you can counter every single Duelist in Marvel Rivals. Now, if you found this video helpful or useful in any way, shape, or form, or you enjoy the content and are coming back anyways, do me a favor of hitting that like and subscribe button. It really helps me out and keeps this channel running. But regardless, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.